Want to stop juggling spreadsheets, calendars, and a dozen apps just to run your rentals? Logify makes it easy. It's an all-in-one toolkit for hosts. Build a direct booking website, automate guest messaging, and keep all your channels in sync. Running your rental business your way has never been simpler. And for Good Morning Hospitality listeners, you can get 20% off any yearly plan with code GMH20. Just check the link in the show notes to get started today.
Welcome to Good Morning Hospitality, your one-stop shop for the latest news, noteworthy trends, and thought-provoking discussions across the industry. From hotels and short-term rentals to all things travel and hospitality, you'll find each episode equips you with the information that you need to start your week. Join us on Good Morning Hospitality every Monday, wherever you get your podcasts.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Happy Monday.
Best day of the week.
Who's bringing that early morning energy?
Whoop, whoop.
And who's screaming for the data?
Screaming.
Nope, nobody. Not today.
Nope.
No
not today.
data screaming today.
Dang it. Well, are we going to get a Brandy rant? I don't know. Are we going to get a Brandy
Who's to say? Who's to say?
Well, I think we have a great show lined up, so maybe I could poke the bear a little bit and get a rant out of you. But how was your guys' weekend? How was your week last week?
I'm just in the onboarding sinkhole. It's a good sinkhole to be in, but it is it's aggressive. Some people out there who have Scotch guarded furniture before will know that you're supposed to use a mask, and I learned that lesson a little too late. But yeah, I'm kind of like back in the old days, really getting involved with the physical onboarding, which is fun.
Start up.
Exactly.
See, I think as entrepreneurs, we need to have those moments that take us back to the old days, right? Like it brings that hunger back, just that drive. You're just like, oh, you know what? This is what it's about. This is what it's about. Sometimes you lose that. You lose it.
Exactly. And it's a good thing because it's not just like one building that we're bringing on. There's quite a few. And so it's a good problem that we have to like spread out and like everybody kind of like take a chunk and try to get it done. So I think it's invigorating everybody to have a little bit of a push back in the field.
A race on who can get their building up fastest?
Well, I would be winning.
Right, Andreas, you hear that?
Oh man, I love it. How about you, Michael? You setting up anything exciting, or is just putting your head down and grinding?
A little bit of A, a little bit of B.
All right.
We'll
making a little bit of C, which is A and B plus. Okay, yeah.
C plus B equals C. Something like that. Yeah, and then this weekend, typical honey-do list plus kids' birthday party and fun.
Dad life.
Oh, I love it. Dad life. Well, I'm out here in the great PNW, and let's say I moved out of here for a reason, but I do have to say I was listening to, I had my window open last night, and my parents live on like this 5-acre plot of land with this pretty crazy house, and I was listening with the window open. I heard all the frogs in the distance, and I was like, oh, this is what I miss. This is the good old sweet home. But it's only good for a while, and then I'll be probably bored within like 2 weeks. So I'm ready to come back to Denver shortly.
A good recharge.
Yeah, maybe back to Arizona, then Denver, but we'll see.
Just bopping around all over the place.
Just bopping, hanging out with the fam. We have a great lineup this week. I'm excited. I feel like the show has been on such a great progression. We have had so many good stories. We've had so many good topics. And I also want to say like a quick thing for all the listener side, maybe the viewer, you don't get it and see it, but we have it's pre-ad basically talking about good morning startups, right? And it's been really fun. It's been a fun experiment for the three of us to test and see how the listenership responds. But I will say it's been really cool to see the actual applications come through, as we were talking in our group chat yesterday, talking about the PS. I'm a big avid listener of the show. I love that. It gets me started with my week. Just stuff like that really gets me excited and amped up. So for all the people listening and supporting, you guys are great. People talked to me and brought it up in Arizona too. So shout out to Jonathan Wicks. But like, just hearing that people are listening in the industry, not that we didn't know, Michael, as you were talking about, like, oh, it's great proof that people are listening. But no, I just, it's super exciting to see. I love the back end stuff of the podcast.
Numbers don't lie.
We're not just shouting into the void.
Yeah, we're not the empty dark hole of podcasting. Anyways, that's what I wanted to say to get us started. But I think maybe we start with Brandy here. Let's get you to touch on the one topic of Sonders' financial fiasco.
Yeah,
was one of the stories we saw this week.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's a shock. I mean, Sonder has been struggling financially very publicly for quite a while. But the news came out that they were delaying their fourth quarter earnings report from the previous year and have to restate the previous 2 years of financials due to accounting errors that have to do with the way their leases are on their books. So this doesn't affect their cash balance, but it will affect their balance sheet, obviously, in a negative way. And it's not a comforting sign to investors, or I think the industry, when you have to go back and report 2 years worth of public financials. And what, not getting into like the financial nitty gritty of it, but kind of the overall theme that we've been talking about with these companies that went public via SPAC, they weren't ready to
SPAC babies.
The SPAC babies, they weren't ready to be public companies at the time. And this is just like, you're seeing that fallout, right? They didn't, and we all understand why they go that route. The well is dry, and the only other well left are the public markets. So like that makes sense. But these are the repercussions of not having your financial house in order when that happens. And, if you ever go through their earnings report, like the investor deck, you see like they have a lot of like non-GAAP financials, like their own financial metrics that create maybe a rosier picture of the scenario. But when you're a public company, obviously some scrutiny is being paid to you and you have to report, everything has to be accurate. And so I think this is, as I've said before, like another company in our industry publicly failing does not help us. It really kind of is a tarnish on the industry, especially for the urban players. Like they're obviously the biggest urban player in North America. So that's like, it's hard to fight that reputation. But I think it's a good lesson to make sure that you are, that you have your financial house in order, that you really have all of your, that you're accurately reporting things, because trying to cover up losses or make things look a little bit rosier will come back to bite you one way or another.
100%. I think a while ago on the show, we talked about their new hires. I think they hired I don't remember if it was a CFO, but they've hired a CFO and a couple other people in the financial department. Which was like a good sign, right? We're all like, okay, maybe they're trying to get their house in order. They're trying to get like actually buttoned up to, move forward as a, publicly traded and hopefully profitable company. And then this article comes out. So it's like, okay, well, sounds like they tried. Maybe they're not doing so good still. I don't know.
I just don't think that there's any, and this has been widely reported, it's not a hot take, but there's no path to profitability, really. I mean, it'll be a drastically different company if they figure out that model.
Well, opportunity with other people's failures. So
yes, and
that's
learn
why
some lessons.
And that's why Romy is going to be the next biggest player in the urban market space, and no one's going to be able to compete with you guys.
No. Yes, I'm actually here to announce that we're going public via SPAC. This is the announcement.
People take this stuff seriously on the show, Brandy.
We went from Series A to SPAC. We just skipped all the other steps.
Next Verma conference, everyone's like, congratulations for going public. Gosh, that's going to be hilarious. Well, Michael, you brought up this story in our group chat as we were prepping for the week. Book Direct no longer looks super attractive after reading this. You want to give us the lead?
Yeah. So FocusWire reported that Expedia, Booking, Airbnb, and Trip.com collectively will be spending almost $17 billion on sales and marketing. So if you think your marketing budget is strong and powerful and going to get you lots of direct bookings, think again. and those prices or that budget for those brands is up 20% from last year. So we talk about Sonders, for example, Sonders RevPAR down $8 per available listing. Airbnb, Expedia booking, they don't feel it because the supply has grown so much that who cares if your RevPAR is down? They're getting their cut on a bigger piece of the pie. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I mean, we talk about on this show quite a bit, but diversify, don't over leverage just on Airbnb. Yeah. Don't over leverage just direct, because you over leverage just direct and then Airbnb sees that you're doing great. They're going to outbid you, and that's going to evaporate overnight. So
Mark from Boostly is having a seizure right now hearing this conversation.
We're not saying don't do book direct. We're saying diversify and have a great story for it. Michael, I think you wanted me to tell this story when we talked on Saturday or Thursday. Was it Thursday? Whatever day I was flying out to my parents. And, I was at Level Up Your Listing. And it's a great conference, great show. Like, seriously, I can't speak highly enough of this show. Like, it's just so good, from the design, from everything. But a lot of the audience or the attendees are the owner operator, right? They invest in the property, they operate it themselves, or they're a co-host, or becoming a property manager. And I was at dinner one night, and one of the ladies was like, look, we bought this house. My husband renovated the whole inside. I did the whole design, and it was beautiful. She showed me the listing. It was fantastic home. But she was outside of some city, out in like a hunting / like wooded area where a lot of people go hunting and camping and like the outdoor life, right? Still a great property. They killed it. And they listed on Airbnb, and they were only on Airbnb. And they're like, all right, like, we're going to make our money back. Obviously, we put all this money into this property. In 30 days, they got one booking, and they're like, we don't know what we did wrong. The title was great. The pictures are great. The listing, they adjusted everything. They changed their pricing. They went all out and just tried to figure out what was wrong. And I was talking to them. I was like, well, you're only on Airbnb. This property, definitely, if you're targeting like the family type, which they were targeting like families that wanted to get away for a weekend. I was like, you need to be on Vrbo. And you need to be on Marriott Homes and Villas, and you need to be on like these other OTAs. You can't just be on Airbnb with this. And literally, she is like, well, I don't know how to do that. I'm like, you get like a PMS. There's a bunch of them out there, really cheap, and it's just the one property. So I was like, do this, get connected with the channels. She did. She texted me later this weekend, and goes, oh my gosh, I listed on Vrbo for 48 minutes and I got a booking. And I was like, I told you, like, you have to diversify the strategy. And I think a lot of people get so hooked, at least newer people get so hooked on the Airbnb hype, and then forget that just because they are the bigger name and they've created a name of the industry, like, oh, I'm staying at an Airbnb this weekend, doesn't mean that your property is always going to perform like that, like the day it used to, like back in 2021 or 2020. So I don't know. It was a good message of diversification.
Absolutely. That's the story Airbnb doesn't want you to hear. No, but it makes sense because you have to know your audience, and like what, Vrbo was a great push for that. And I think that's really, I think it can just be daunting. Like, this woman was like how, like, kind of probably a little frantic that they've made this investment. 100%. And when you're she's obviously attending an industry conference, so that's a step in, but I imagine that it's really daunting when you're like, how do I solve this problem? What even, like, not even really knowing what the problem is. And so it's great that she went to one conference, had a conversation with you, probably got, a cheaper PMS, and now isn't going to be drowning in mortgage payments. So
100%. And there's a bunch of other issues too, like the state and county changed the regulation issues, so she had to go re-permit, and then she had to build like an extra 300 square feet because it wasn't the right. Like, there was so many things that she had to go through, and then just to look at Airbnb and think the problem was on the platform Airbnb is no, like, yeah, they bring a ton of travelers. The problem wasn't Airbnb; it was that you were looking for a different audience. So,
and then get a direct booking site.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Sponsored by Boostly.
And start pumping social media and take a lesson out of Ben Wolf's playbook.
Exactly.
Yeah, so there's lots of ways to diversify. You guys mentioned people's over-reliance on Airbnb, and that's their dream. They had some C-suite, their CBO, Dave Stevenson,
who was their CFO.
Was at ITB Berlin last week, talking about the direction that Airbnb wants to go, which is offering guests more services, i.e. experiences, and hosts more services. And it was interesting to see the things that he called out for the host side. It could be easier maintenance, easier cleaning. Maybe they need a co-host. And then on the guest side, fridge stocking, transportation to and from the airport, maybe a late checkout or a place to store their bags. Well, if you look at the guest side, transport, okay, integrate with Uber, right? You want stocking the fridge, okay? There's
Instacart.
There's a dozen apps for that. Late checkout, well, that's another service fee that they can charge, and they take a commission on that. And then a place to store your bag. Well, there's plenty of those companies out there, Luggage Hero. So I would seriously look at your business right now, especially if you're focusing on the single host and you're a vendor, that how easily replicable is my platform? And if it's not easily replicable, then you've got a moat, right? A place to store a bag. Airbnb is not going to go out and find 2 million gas stations that you can go put your luggage behind the whatever storage closet. But if it's just a simple piece of tech, like an integration with Schlage, then you're going to be in trouble. So make sure you're offering something that is not easily replicable and is defensible with a moat. Otherwise, I mean, we're going to start seeing Airbnb start to become a vendor of many of these additional services to gain stickiness of the product. They want exclusivity. They've never hid that. They want every property on their platform to be exclusive on Airbnb. And, good for them. Like, that's a valiant wish and good for them to be, go in that direction. But the professionals in the space that know diversification is key and that there are services layered on top of this are, they're going to be better ultimately than anything that Airbnb can individually build.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I see. I think that what you like, all of that is just like a direct clash with kind of what Will just said with that anecdotal story, right? So you have like, yes, they could build this ecosystem that has absolutely everything in there. But then if you start to realize, like, I'm only getting one booking in this 30-day window, and, so you'll have to be really willing to commit. And I wonder if it, once let's say they build this crazy ecosystem that people are willing to like stay within, I feel like they will lose people over time because they'll want to list on Vrbo or Booking or something like that. And then you'll have to break apart the ecosystem that you've become so reliant on. And they're also going to miss out. I mean, anyone who uses a PMS won't use their products, which is a substantial, if not by listing volume, certainly by revenue, like a big part of the industry. So it'll be interesting to see where that crux is, like who really, who really wants to use that whole system, doesn't really care about diversification, just wants the simplest thing. And then, are there tools that are good enough to persuade people who might otherwise jump ship a little bit to stay within?
Yeah. For sure. And, not to make it a cheesy transition here, but, we're talking about like not being, creating a moat, Michael. And I think, our sponsors at Sojo are a great example, right? Like they create the amenities, they've created the tech that you don't see. And as Brandy just mentioned, if you're trying to pull away from an OTA or a platform, then breaking apart that ecosystem becomes so incredibly challenging. And that's why like Sojo with their amenities powered by their technology is a perfect opportunity for operators to have that standout opportunity, to have that tech stack that is a little bit more independent, a little bit more closer to heart. Plus, they get all the benefits of, they save an average of 50 hours a month back to their housekeeping labor that they don't have to, now worry about going over. They create consistent and elevated experiences. Plus, they make their brand the hero, which is the most important piece, right? So I think there's a ton of great opportunities for our listeners that are tuning in. You can get a free 30-day trial of Sojo. Just go to goodmorninghospitality.com/partners and grab the link there. But I couldn't agree more with what you guys were saying in the sense of there's so many things. And I think a lot of us get siloed, right? Like, we're entrepreneurs. You get siloed, you have your head down, you go to a conference and maybe hear how other people are doing it, but you still don't know what's really beyond. The Level Up Your Listing attendees don't really know much about the VRMA, and the VRMA don't really know much about the Airbnb, like Level Up Your Listing. There's still such a separation of industry, in my opinion. But anyways, I think I want
to get to one of Dell's comments that Airbnb's economic value prop is very strong for owners. It is. And the more they can add in, the more layers, the more integrations that they can build in directly for the individual host, the cheaper it is to do the act of renting your short-term rental. And then ultimately, the more profitable they are, which means you've created a massive amount of stickiness ultimately for those individual hosts. And it's only until you get to the point where you're either not getting bookings, you're addressing the wrong target market or demographic. If you're going after big families and you're in a traditional destination market and you're not on Vrbo, you're missing the mark, right? If you're an international market and you're not on booking.com, you're missing the mark. But for as many properties that Airbnb has, I wish Jane was here to tell us the exact number because I always misquote it, so I'm not even going to mention it. But the mass market is the single hosts. And if they can create that stickiness by offering additional services, both to the traveler and to the host, they're going to ultimately win in the long term. And they've had this vision of experiences for a long time. A number of reasons it's been killed multiple times. But coming from the host perspective, it's people take the path of least resistance. And if it's harder to then integrate with other calendars and then set up different services, now you need a Schlag integration with Vrbo. Now you need an integration with DoorDash to have your fridge stocked, and you can't do it. You're going to start pushing more stuff to Airbnb. So it's a really smart move on their behalf.
I would just comment on the cost effectiveness to owners, because you do pay a pretty hefty commission, 13 to 15%. And then in some cases, you can cover the guest service charge, and then that gets you promoted higher in the algorithm. So that does come at quite a bit of a cost. And I think the hidden cost to owners is people who aren't maybe as sophisticated operators who use Airbnb's smart pricing. You are losing money there. That is a big cost, because it is to their benefit to make sure that you are priced as low as possible. And so if you don't have the time or the knowledge to have like a revenue management strategy for your listings, like that is a kind of like a hidden cost of your operation.
And look, I think we talk about it on the show a ton. But like other channels like Marriott Homes and Villas, right? Like if you want to have that loyalty base a little bit higher RevPAR, probably because they're willing to pay for a higher quality product. Like there's so many distribution routes that are all a little bit different in the sense of what you're trying to accomplish. Plus also, like I know Tanner mentioned it in one of the comments just here on the live on the video side, but like the soul of hospitality is service and setting a high expectation. But I think like in order to keep that soul breathing, you need to have the financial and revenue and business mindsets in order to understand like what your financial goals are in order to accomplish them and what channels you need to get to that too. So it's kind of a balance and a dance of hospitality, service, brand, creating community, creating connection, but also having that financial stability and that financial, I think, smartness to continue to push the needle in the sense of being a profitable, sustainable, and not sustainable in the eco green side, but sustainable literally in business and keeping your business alive. That's something that I'm very passionate about, especially in our industry. We've had too many companies go out of business. So
yeah, keeping a business alive. I'm here for it.
Yeah. I want one more comment on Dell's statement. Will and I talk about the 20 bucking to death that vendors in the space do. Realistically, it's probably closer to $10 to death these days. Okay, maybe I'm wrong. You guys can correct me, but that adds up really quickly. And then if you add in, pricing tools that take a couple points plus PMSs that take a couple points, if you can operate your entire business through Airbnb solely, you are saving a lot of money if they're delivering enough in bookings that the trade-off is worthwhile. So, and maybe in some markets that's the case, but across the board, especially in the professional landscape, not even close.
Well, also it kind of depends on what kind of host you want to be. If this is something that you're doing to meet a mortgage payment on a second home, if you're doing this if you're more of like the quote hobby host and you just want something like simplicity versus, efficiency maybe, or, like getting the most of out of your home, then that's fine. Like, but if your goal is to create your own really like highly functioning business, then that might not be for you. And it's maybe it's like the training wheels, you see how all these different like components work. And then once you get a little bit bigger, you already know how these integrations are supposed to function and you're a little bit more well-educated.
100%. And go ahead, Michael.
It's good for the overall market for sure. Teaching people the right way to host. And I know Airbnb's done this for a while. Shout out Jimmy Rep. What's up?
Jimmy Rep.
But there's definitely been an educational aspect to Airbnb and layering in actual service providers, whether the Airbnb is doing it themselves or layering in a third party. That's great. And then once, to Brandy's point, once they get to 4, 5, 10 units, now they know what their tech stack should look like, but they need to go find it in a third party so they can diversify, look at direct bookings, because Airbnb is not the only one of the 4 spending $17 billion a year in advertising. There are others. But it is, I'm actually really excited to continue to track this story because we are just at the tip of the iceberg with the Schlage integration. There's obviously they're being very public. It's obviously a lot more coming soon.
100%.
I think this is just kind of like fun anecdotally, but I listen to a lot of podcasts that are outside of our industry, and I have heard so many Airbnb, Vrbo, and Booking.com and Expedia podcast commercials, and I'm like it's really, really ramped up. So they are definitely it's very obvious, the push.
Well, not to let the cat out of the bag too soon, but I think our listeners are going to expect a little bit of a OTA partnership from the show in the near future. So not going to say anything else, but those are going to carry on to GMH a little bit. I'm excited for it and in prep of it. So I'm here for it. We're here for some good partnerships that are aligned with. Yeah, a little teaser for the loyalists out there. No, this is all really good points, and you guys this is such a. I think my biggest thing is the education on the tech space in our industry. There's so many people that were duplicating their tech stack in the sense of having providers that do the same functionality and they're paying for it, and it makes no sense. So they're wondering why everything breaks. I think this is gonna evolve. This whole OTA OTAs is a very, very popular topic on this show. We do talk about OTAs a lot. They do make a lot of moves and they cause a lot of noise. So this is going to be something that's going to be talked about consistently on GMH, probably even on the hotel crew, and as we get ready to launch into other areas. So I think it's going to be something that, Michael, like you said, we're going to be paying attention to, and I think a lot of the listeners should as well.
Well, it controls all the revenue for your business, or most of it. So it's important that you're aware, these changes that are being made aren't just happening in a vacuum. They have real implications either now or you'll feel them 6 months from now.
Yeah, 100%. Anything you guys are looking forward to this week as it's Monday?
Yes, actually, I have like a little shameless plug. If you aren't familiar, Breezeway does their Elevate conference. So I'm doing one of their panels Wednesday at noon Eastern. The whole conference is like webinars, so you don't have to be anywhere in person. Sign up for that. It's going to be a lot of fun. And they're short little bites. They're like 25-minute panels, so you can like eat your lunch and listen in.
Eat your lunch. I love it. Brandy, if you could send me the link afterwards, so we'll put it in the show notes for all of our listeners.
And I guess one other plug, if we're plugging events and conferences, the Shorties Awards is coming up. Everybody be ready to vote. I think voting will open in 2 weeks. So it's a great initiative that's grown every single year. So shout out to the team putting on the Shorties Awards.
Yes, and to answer Del Ross's comment, we have anyone going to Hunter, and that would be a no from this group. But I think Jamie Lane will be there. He's going to be on a panel or two, and also, going to be roaming around with the AirDNA crew. So that will be a good one.
Del, if you want me on a panel, I live pretty close. I can drive up and be on it. So just let me know.
Yeah, I get the storied collection up there. Awesome. Yeah, nothing for me this week. Just lots of meetings, lots to catch up from Level Up Your Listing. But I'm excited. We got some fun stuff in GMH Works and then HFM and a couple other projects. So obviously I'll share more as they come live. But we finally hit the 30-minute mark, and we're not going 5 or 10 minutes over like normal. So I think for all of our listeners, this is our sign to wrap up. Say thank you for tuning in on the live. Thank you for listening to the replay. If you're on the audio version, make sure you like and subscribe, leave a review, send it with your mom, share with your dad, your aunts, your uncles, your cousins, everybody and above, your other favorite co-hosts out there if you have them. And like always, we'll see you guys again next week. And our hotel crew live this Wednesday, same time, 7 a.m. PST and 10 a.m. EST.
Want to stop juggling spreadsheets, calendars, and a dozen apps just to run your rentals? Lodgify makes it easy. It's an all-in-one toolkit for hosts. Build a direct booking website, automate guest messaging, and keep all your channels in sync. Running your rental business your way has never been simpler. And for Good Morning Hospitality listeners, you can get 20% off any yearly plan with code GMH20. Just check the link in the show notes to get started today.